Welcome everyone to the raw and uncut version of this episode of the SellOut Show, where we're going to talk about thinking big, moving you from 5 to 6 figures in sales. Shawn, tell us who our guest is.
We have a great guest today, Jon Dwoskin of the Jon Dwoskin Experience. His new book that just came out was called The Think Big Movement. And so we asked Jon, he's a business coach and helps businesses and people within the business grow. We asked him to tell us, what does it mean to think big and within the sales context? So he's got some great advice, some great insights. Again, when we have guests on, Dianna, I always feel bad, like, how's she going to edit this?
I know, this is a good one. This has a lot of good stuff.
So for now, watch the raw and uncut version and learn about how you can think big in your sales practice. Here we go.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. So, hello, Dianna.
Hello. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning. So you said you had good news for us?
Yeah, I want to read you an email that I got from iTunes yesterday.
Oh, okay.
It says, your podcast, located at bloody blah has been approved.
Yay!
You should expect to see it on the iTunes store within the next few hours. When it's available, you'll be able to access it with the URL below. Now, I have not clicked on this URL yet, so let me just click on it. OMG. There is one episode loaded up of the SellOut Show on iTunes. You should go search for it right now. We'll be loading up the other 35 tomorrow.
Awesome! Yay!
I know,
great
it's
job.
finally. It took a small miracle, but it happened. So I just wanted to announce that.
So now the SellOut Show is on
I'll
YouTube
show it to you
as well as iTunes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's kick it off before our guest jumps in here.
But I want to show. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yay! Oh, I can. Looks good.
So anyway, that's where you should go to see us on the SellOut Show.
Yep. Now we can start making all those great podcast lists too. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So it's all you, baby. Should we go? What's your week like? What's it been like? What's going on in your world?
Oh my God. I don't know. Just training. Like I'm trying to do a year-end push. I've got all my sellers doing one-on-ones with me. I'm like, let's get these in so that they don't let off the gas for the end of the year.
This is the time to put the gas on, and it'll especially set you up for 2018. So let's talk about our guest.
Yeah, well, let's do the intro first. So.
Oh, right. God, I always forget that. All right, ready? Yeah. Welcome everyone to the SellOut Show, where we are always sold out. I am Dianna Guerin, the Irreverent Sales Girl, and my mission is to bring a dash of dignity to the art of selling.
Hi, Dianna. Hi, everyone. I'm Shawn Sandy, Chief Revenue Officer of the Selling Agency, where we coach humans how to sell to other humans. Because if you sell like the Cowardly Lion, someone else is going to come and eat your lunch.
Very nice little lead-in for our guest today.
Exactly. So,
and today has a big lion on the front of it.
Yeah, we have a special guest coming on in just a minute, and this is really cool. I don't know a whole lot about this, so I'm just as excited as our guest to learn about Jon Dwoskin and the Think Big movement. So
the way that he kind of crossed our radar screen is, if you ever really want to get somebody important's attention, not saying we're so important, but if you ever want to get somebody's attention, put them on your top 10 list. Do you know? Mm-hmm. These guys publish this, they have a podcast for sales, and they published this whole article about their top favorite podcasts, and we were number 1, and they said, we don't even watch selling podcasts because we have our own, but we made these guys number 1. So I'm like, who are they?
Yeah,
that's how you get somebody's attention.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
With me, it will for sure.
Yeah. Well, very cool. And so, Jon should join us in just a second. But have you met him in person or just talked to him?
I haven't met him in person. I've spoken with him a few times. So right when he was publishing that article about us, he was also about to release a book. And I said, we should really have y'all. His partner, Scott Fishman, couldn't come on today, which is sort of a bummer, because it would be really fun to do, like, the two of us on their podcasts and us on their, just to make us, all happy. But he's about to launch his book called The Think Big Movement. And I really love this book because it's not your standard sort of business book. It's actually a story So it's somebody taking you on their journey of how they're totally stuck in their business at a plateau, and how the journey that they take, and I'll let Jon talk about it a little bit more, the journey they take to actually get unstuck and blow their business wide open. So I'm really excited because I think that there are a lot of things that apply to, if you are in a sales role where you're making 5 figures and you really want to cross that 6-figure threshold, what are the things that Jon can share with us today about the Think Big movement that would apply to that? Do a couple introductions. So,
all right.
So Jon, you and I have spoken quite a bit, but
Yes.
This is my co-host, Shawn Carol Sandy. She is the Chief Revenue Officer of the selling agency, where she coaches humans to sell to other humans instead of selling like robots. Wait a minute. You do it.
That's it. Perfect.
Anyway, she thinks that selling like robots is really very last year. So anyway, so that's who Shawn is. And she and I both have a passion for working with sellers who are interested in moving from 5 to 6 figures. And so there are boots on the ground, phone in the hand salespeople, which I know that you and Scott do a lot of actionable, tangible advice on your sales podcast. And, when you all made us your #1 podcast for the month or whatever a few months ago, I was like, well, these guys are irresistible. So then we got talking, and what I'm really interested in, Jon, is talking about the Think Big movement, because there are a few things that I wanted to sort of pick your brain about.
Okay.
The first one is I'd love to have you introduce yourself, but your business book is written in a story format, and I've only really ever seen Bob Berg do that with The Go-Giver, which is a brilliant book.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of get your ideas about, why you're putting your, business acumen and business thinking into a story format. And then I'm really curious, any advice, any thoughts that you would have for our boots on the ground, phone in the hand salespeople who want to get to a solid 6-figure? How does something like the Think Big movement make that more possible for them? So
sure.
That's all.
Sure. Just a bio about me. I'm a business coach. I work with companies to grow them. Quick history of me. I'm 45 years old. When I was 23, I started an internet company back in mid-1995, sold it to a Silicon Valley company, and then was a partner in that organization for a couple of years. I led the sales. I managed the salespeople, hired them, and then I also was responsible for a lot of the business planning and just the growth. I have 2 business partners, my brother and a friend of ours. After I was done with that venture, I moved on to real estate, commercial real estate. I sold apartment buildings, became top of my game selling apartment buildings, got a little restless, ended up taking over my office of my company, and then the market crashed a month later and grew my office to one of the most profitable in the company. And then after 6 years of that and 6 years of brokering, I was just ready to have a new chapter. Ended up wanting to start my own company, and then ended up moving into going in-house to a company to help restructure them for a year, and then started my own company about 2.5 years ago. I have clients all over the country, internationally as well. Thanks to technology like this, I can work with business owners, leadership teams, managers, salespeople, and help them grow. That's what I do. So, and that's what I love to do. And my company's called the Jon Dwoskin Experience, and I just published my first book, blah, blah, blah. I tried to summarize that in a quick fashion. Yes. Yeah. So to answer you, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. And again, I'm a big fan, and I know Scott is too. So why I wrote the book in a business summary, in a business, which I thought was a fable, but I think it's a parable actually. But
what's the difference?
A fable is more like animals and this, that, and the other, and a parable includes human beings. So I think it's, anyway, whether it's a fable or a parable, I told it in story format. And the reason I did that was because I think that I think academic business books can be a little bit boring. And I didn't want to write a book that just was kind of like, hey, here, do A, B, and C, and just be another academic solution for somebody to do, the 3 C's, the 3 A's, the 3 B's, the 3 D's, that just seemed like, I don't know, that doesn't resonate with me. And some of my favorite books are books told in story, The Go-Giver, and just all of those types of books, The Alchemist, just Anyway, oh, it's a great book. You should read it. Yeah.
Great book.
Oh, you read it.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
a brilliant book.
It's a brilliant book. So I wanted to be able to take my information, my business information, and put it into a story format where somebody could read it in real time. So all of the characters in the book have a backstory. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has a little bit of pain. I had somebody just recently read the book and tell me, that they read it and they got done reading it and they were actually depressed. And was my goal to have people be depressed? They were inspired but depressed, and they were depressed because they weren't hitting their potential, and they realized it by reading the book. And they knew that that they needed to kind of take their game to the next level, and they wanted to be pushed, like one of the characters, Sam, pushes Jacob in the book. And they had all these epiphanies because the fundamental foundation of the book is a quote, success minus fulfillment equals failure. And so if you're not fulfilled, it doesn't matter how much success you have, it doesn't really matter. So it takes a story about a character named Jacob, and it takes him through just, he has his own business, he's stuck, and he doesn't really know what to do. And so I figured, are people going to want to read a book about me? No, that's boring too. And nobody knows who I am. And so I just made it up where I wanted people to experience what they were going through real-time story. So that's a quick gist. And then I included all of my business strategies and anecdotes and, ideas and solutions and best practices that people can put into their business, relatively quickly. But I told it as if somebody was telling the story in the book.
So it's called the Think Big movement, Jon. So why a movement? And explain where that comes in.
Well, it's called the Think Big movement, grow your business big, very big. And the movement is, the book really talks about, defining thinking big as doing small things on a daily basis that get you to however you define your big. Mm-hmm. And so the movement is the movement in your mind. It's a shift of a mindset. So it's not really a movement as in like a movement to sweep the nation, but a movement internally that shifts the way you think about your success, mentors that come into your life, and just being present. That's the movement. So it's really the movement within yourself, not outside forces.
You've brought it up a couple times. I think that, Shawn, you were asking about the mentor aspect.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So one of the things that is really important, and a theme that we've kind of seen. So a lot of times, Dianna and our guests will be, not necessarily sales experts, but people in sales roles. People who have been SDRs, BDRs, moved up to account executives, and I think a couple times, several of our more successful ones have talked about what great mentors they've had. Mm-hmm. Share with, salespeople, again, wanting to go from 5 figures to 6 figures. That means, not only growing business, but growing in their roles, taking more responsibility. What do you look for in a mentor? And tell us a story about if you had some great mentors.
Yeah, no, I had some incredible mentors, and I don't know how you grow without mentors. I've had mentors. I have mentors. I've had business coaches. I still have business coaches. To me, if you don't have mentors or business coaches, then you just become complacent and you think what you're doing is just going to keep on working. And what got you to where you want to be isn't going to get you to where you want to go. And you need that outside perspective of somebody that you trust, that has your best interest in your back, to guide you to the next level. To me, it is the only way to go from 5 to 6 and from 6 to 7 and from 7 to 8 figures. So, and a lot of times what we do is very nuancy. We get people out of their patterns. We create new patterns of what they do in business. And so I've had a lot of mentors in my life. I mean, I think every business that I've ever been in, since I worked when I was 13 at summer camp, or, having jobs, I always had the mindset, because I was never the smartest person in the room, but I would always know that I could grow from watching other people and taking everybody else's strengths and growing from that, and then looking at other people's weaknesses and not doing that. Mm-hmm. And then always, making sure that you got somebody who can give you the advice. I've also been burned because I've had mentors that I thought were incredible mentors, and to some extent were. But then when you kind of get to a point where you're growing after you've been mentored, you realize that a lot of their mentoring was out of their own best interest, not yours.
Oh,
So a true mentor is somebody who is completely selfless, has your best interest in mind, and not their own.
you know, I know, Dianna, you've had a fantastic mentor. I had some sales directors with some good skills, but I also had like the anti-mentors. I did what you talked about, John. I looked around at a lot of my peers and you know, people in the different sales organizations and went, I'm not doing what they're doing. Are you? I mean, it was like, holy crap, you know, which you know, shuttled me in the other direction. But I know, Dianna, you've had some fantastic mentors.
Well, I'm going to get a little snarky here for a minute. I know, shocker, but so I would really love to have you offer some guidance about how to get that right coach, because there are so many people out there that call themselves coaches, and some of them are life coaches and some of them are business coaches, and you know, who knows what street cred they've got. How do you find somebody that is a great coach? And then do you have any rules for like holding them accountable for, you know, hey, these are the results I need to produce, and if we don't produce them, then we've got to go separate ways? Because you can spend a lot of money on somebody that is not going to move you anywhere.
Well, you know what? That's a funny thing, because a lot of people want to be held accountable, but nobody really wants to be held accountable. And
true that.
Right. So, but the way to, I think, hold someone accountable is to make sure that as you set goals with them, they're small goals that they can do consistently, not big, huge goals that they can't hit. You know, small, you know, the way I define thinking big is doing small, consistent things every day, not big things every day. You can't do big things every day. We're only human. But I think just going back is, but when you set those small things, they've got to be specific and they've got to be measurable. So it can't be, so for example, if I'm talking to a salesperson in this case, and he says, well, I'm going to make a lot of calls. Okay, well, what does that mean? I'm going to make 50 calls. Okay, well, that's great. But are you going to make 50 calls a day or 50 calls a week? I'm going to make 50 calls a week. Okay. How many people are you going to contact? How many people are you actually going to talk to? I'm going to talk to 5. Okay, you're going to talk to 5. With those 5, what are you going to do? Are you going to set up meetings? Like, give me specifics about what you're going to do. So I think it's the coach's responsibility to at least set that plan. Mm-hmm. But I think there's also sometimes, you know, to me, my clientele, I'm going to answer your question, but my clientele, what I have found is there are successful people who are stuck, who want to get to the next level, and they don't have that one person to talk to and to strategize with. And with my track record in business, I've kind of been there in their shoes, so I can strategize, and I study my skill set since the time I was 18 every day. But I think that it's difficult. So when you're looking for the right coach, it's got to be somebody that you connect with and click with, but somebody that's going to help you drill down to the specific and the measurable and the granular. But so my clientele is somebody who's successful, who is stuck, wants to get to the next level, but also wants to grow their business and wants to grow themselves. Mm-hmm. If they don't want to grow themselves, what I have found is that the client it doesn't work out. And in one case, I've had it for myself work out just badly. And I should have known, because somebody wanted me to come in and work on the business, but not the president. You know, they didn't want to work on themselves. And so it's hard for me to gain traction in that way.
Yeah. That's a big qualifier for me. If you are not into personal development, I mean, I look for people who are runners, people who are climbing mountains, people who are, you know, into that personal development. They make better clients, because you're going to have to make change. Change is uncomfortable. Are you okay with that discomfort? And not, you know, I think, and just as an aside, I think somewhere along the line, we decided that a happy life was a frictionless life.
Right.
Right.
That,
right.
You know, it should be smooth sailing, no problems, whatever, you know, and I see it, my children think this way. If something is difficult, I'm not good at it. It's not my best thing. I'm not getting into the generation that we're raising, but I just see this. And, you know, it goes from children to adults, but we think that our life should be frictionless, but that's not that's not a reality. It's not even good for us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need resistance. When you're challenged, you change. So, people who are not into their own personal development do not make great clients.
They really don't. And people who just really want to be better, business wise, mentally, spiritually, mentally, and just are open to growth. Yeah, that's.
So if somebody decided that they wanted to assert their commitment to their own personal development, where do you start to look for the right ways to do that?
Well,
like, are there particular books, programs, people, like, where do you just start to look?
Specifically for salespeople too.
Where do they look to be better? Well, in today's world, it's great because you can look online. I mean, you can go to YouTube, you can go to audible.com, you can go to Udemy. You can do a lot of great things and in a very affordable way and get some great things to grow your game. But I think reading and podcasting, listening to podcasts is probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself. If you don't want to spend the money and have the one-on-one relationship with a coach, which I think is critical, because that's where really the magic happens.
Yeah.
To me, podcast, you can listen to a 20-minute podcast and get so much content to just spark your day. Read a couple pages of a book that give you just the inspiration to want to attack the day. But to me, it's about what you can do is about daily development. It's about daily development. And if you don't have daily development mindset, then you're not going to grow, I think. And it's got to be, even if it's 2 minutes a day, if you listen to, it doesn't matter what it is. And today it's too easy. I mean, whether you listen to a podcast or Audible, I mean, you can listen to everything at time and a half. I mean, you can, it's so easy. It's so easy. So to me, if you can't make a commitment today to do that, then to me and don't expect to grow your business.
Yeah. Dianna and I have a phrase for that, right, Dianna?
Learn harder. Hashtag learn harder. So what are some other things that people would take? I mean, obviously from reading your book or listening to your podcast or just in general that you can share with us that, what's one thing that you think that people could be focusing on next if they want to move their career from 5 to 6 figures?
Yeah. So a couple things. I think that a lot of salespeople are bad at owning their own business. They will work for a platform, but they don't really take the ownership. Like, hey, I am the CEO of my business, and I may work for a company that has a great platform, but I also am my own CEO. So I think they're poor business planners. So for example, I think the topic that we started off talking about, right now, these next 2 months and, running hard and sprinting until, maybe a couple of days before Christmas is critical, especially these next couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, before everybody slows down. But, creating a business plan for November, December, and creating a very detailed business plan for 2018. I like to get people on 1-year business plans, reverse engineer it by the quarter, by the week, by the day, and make them as specific and as detailed as possible, and holding people accountable, salespeople in this respect, where if you don't do something today, then you got to course correct it and move it forward tomorrow. You can't just let it go. And really, and really having a very specific and measurable business plan and measuring it and keeping track of it with the scorecard. If you can do that, then there's no reason, in my opinion, that any salesperson who if you want to make 5 figures, then that's fine. Maybe that's within your lifestyle and that's okay. And that's fine. But there's no reason if you're in sales that you should be making less than 6 figures. If you put the proper structure and mechanics around it. And because it's all there, it's a numbers game. And those that don't understand that it's a numbers game and have metrics and ratios and scorecards and business plans that are specific and measurable are just doing themselves a disservice. And they're going to have a ton of friction in their business and too many ups and downs and too many roller coasters. And then if you have all of that and you also have a very detailed way that you keep your pipeline and you're always doing new business and you're always prospecting, no matter how full your pipeline is, yes, then you should make no less than $150 a year minimum. I mean, so to me, that's the formula. So just to recap what I've just said, prospect every day, do new business development every day, have a very detailed business plan where you know specifically every single day what you got to do, know what your metrics are, know what your ratios are, and then rinse, repeat. It's a very rinse, repeat business, and constantly learn every day. If you're not constantly learning something new every day, you're going to get bored, you're going to forget, and you're going to get really restless, and your clients will get restless with you. Next, I would say that you have to have a very detailed and specific editorial calendar for a marketing plan and branding. And you want to market yourself, and you want to market for lead generation, and you want to give out and provide content that makes you a leader and an authority in your business. And give your opinion and tell people what they need to do in sales, and guide people. Don't be afraid. And lastly, we can open up this. You got to close. I can't believe how many salespeople I talk to that are uncomfortable closing. You got to close over and over and over and over again, and don't take no for an answer. So that's a quick gist summary. And all of that
don't take no for an answer. Like, what does that look like in real life? Like, what does that look like?
That's going to freak people out, which I love.
That freaked me out. Don't take no for an answer. That sounds really aggressive.
Well, I guess it can be aggressive, but I mean, if somebody says no, it may just mean, you haven't shown your value, and you have to understand, what their needs really are. It may mean no for right now, but not in the future. That's why you want to have a marketing plan, so you can leverage your name and keep your name in front of them. And, it just, no never means no. I mean, even if you're talking to somebody that says no, well, they may still have somebody to refer you to. They may, there's a lot of different options. And
it's never the end of the line.
It's never right. I mean, there may be a group of people that say no, but, you still keep them on your mailing list, and they're still getting content from you. They're still, subscribe to your social platform, and through your, social pushing out of information or content that you're leading them to their website, you're still lightly influencing them in some respects. So if you follow up with them via an article 3 months later, hey, per our talk a couple months ago, I thought you would really like this article. If you want to continue the conversation on working together, please let me know, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, never give up.
Never, never, never give up. Never give up.
Never.
But I'm going to push back on you just a teensy bit, because one of my favorite things that the Irreverent Sales Girl says, I really like her very well, is I have a schizophrenic relationship with the Irreverent Sales Girl, is don't chase the no. Do you know, like, I have seen salespeople get so like a dog on a bone about an account that is just not ever going to happen, and they forsake everything else to just go after that thing that's not really working. So I found a lot of times that I agree with you, John. One of the biggest accounts that I ever closed, it took me 10 years to do it. I was selling a non-mission critical service, but I just never ever gave up on them as a company. I thought they were a great fit for us. But at the same time, there are those things that I know that you really wanted it, but you just got to move on and keep doing your business, right?
Well, I think there's a difference between not taking no for an answer, and maybe I should have clarified, on an account that you believe you're right for and you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Versus being a prisoner of hope. So I think
oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Prisoner of hope. Oh.
Versus, so I think there's a difference there, and you got to know. I mean, but I think you also, as a salesperson, got to do some self-reflection. So a lot of times, if you look in hindsight how you did something in a sales cycle, and that maybe you didn't bring the value, that you didn't understand, the client doesn't understand how you differentiate yourself. The client doesn't even understand what you do. Well, then it's kind of like, how do you bring that back and make that work? And sometimes you can't, sometimes you can't. But what I'm talking about is, if there's a client that you want to do business with, don't take no for an answer. There's some clients that I want to do business with that aren't ready to do business with me, but I'll still shoot them some emails and an article and a text and a call once in a while. At some point, then I leave them in my evergreen marketing, where they just kind of get my stuff. But, until I'm ready to say I'm done, then that's how I look at it.
All right. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
I just see people like killing themselves over things, but they should just move on and go get the business that's ready for them.
No, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of business out there.
that goes back to qualifying too. Like you've got to, I mean, that's sales advice I wish I had myself when I was younger, pre-qualify harder. And that way, if you truly know this is a business that you can help, they have the acumen, they, you know, the decision maker, the budget or whatever, you know, we can't manipulate and force people into our own timelines. I mean, did it ever work, or was it just coincidence? I don't know. I don't believe in manipulation, but I think, you know, we can sell better too. I have this theory. I call it the one call unicorn. You know, people are looking for, I'm going to make one phone call and people are going to fall in love with me and buy me instantaneously. Or I call it the email that laid the golden egg. I'm going to say, I'm going to have just the right subject line and they're going to fall in love and buy me. Yeah, on occasion that has worked, but people are watching how you sell. You know, it's a process. It might even seem like a one-sided relationship for a while, but you know, you're leaving little teeny tiny footprints. You know, those emails, they might delete them, but they're going to read who it's from, the subject line. The voicemails, they might delete them, but they're going to see who it's from and before they delete it. So, you know, eventually, until they throw you out of a building or tell you to stop calling, you are making impressions. So if you firmly believe that is a client you can and will do business with, don't stop selling.
Don't stop. And you know, one of the things, just talking about salespeople,
change your outfit and go back to the building.
going from 5 to 6 figures. I think one of the two key things are the following: prepare before the meeting, and have impeccable follow-up. I think so many salespeople fall short. Probably 95% fall short in the follow-up. You know, a follow-up email, a follow-up call, a follow-up meeting, follow-up anything, doing what they say they're going to do, they don't do. Mm-hmm, and there's no faster way to lose credibility, no matter what type of salesperson you are. But if you can master your time management and follow-up skills, then everything else that we've talked about today will fall into place if you are truly a salesperson. And if you're not a salesperson, get out of sales. You know, sometimes you got to tell salespeople, like, you should not be in sales. You know, you're not making any money. You're not growing your business. You don't like picking up the phone. You don't like people. You don't like negotiating, and so you're in the wrong seat.
You should go work for the IRS, being an auditor.
Right.
That's much better stuff.
Right. Okay, so to sort of recap, get a great mentor. Do the small things every day, because they're the things that lead to the big thing. Always be learning harder and developing yourself as a person. And those are some really good fundamentals for, and actually I like what you say about being the CEO of your own business. I call it the CEO. I used to call it the CEO of my territory.
Right.
Think like a business owner. So those are really actually actionable things that people can take on. What is one small tiny thing? I know mine, and actually I got mine a lot from reading this book. There were some things that all converged that I put in place, but what's a small thing that you do every day that is now leading to your big results, John?
I think a couple things. One, I complete my day every night before I go to bed, meaning my follow-up with all my clients, reviewing my day for the next day is always clean. I clean up for the day and I get ready for the next day. I think that is critical. And I have my own kind of system on how I do things. And so I think everybody has to have a system. And I have a business plan that I look at every morning and every night. I'm looking at my business plan at least twice a day, and I'm course correcting my plan and my vision and what I want to do and where I want to go and things that I'm working on. And I think most salespeople need to absolutely look at their business plan and their pipeline twice a day. It's a living document. And I would say, lastly, the first thing I do when I wake up every morning is I meditate to slow my brain down. My brain works really quickly, and I find that if I don't slow it down, I miss some of the nuances that I need to pay attention to. And I'm in the business of having to pay attention to the nuances for my clients. So I gotta make sure that I am as present and focused as I possibly can be. And meditation has been a huge help for me.
Wow. Those are so good. That's like a whole other life that I need to start doing. Oh my God. How about you, Shawn? What's one small thing that you're doing every day that's making a difference for the big picture?
Let's see, one small thing. You know, throughout this year, I've done a lot of things. Exercise has certainly been huge. Getting up early in the morning and getting sweaty and just getting my body moving has been huge for me. But this past week I started something because I've got some additional goals that I want to meet. So I met with my health coach, actually. Even coaches need coaches, right, John?
Yep. I have a coach. I have a coach, and I actually just hired a podcast coach, which I'll tell you guys about for a third podcast I'm starting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
But so something little I just started doing was I found a couple apps. A couple apps that I use. One's an affirmation reminder. So I wrote down the big thing that I want to achieve, the goal I want to achieve, and I broke it down into weekly pieces, and then which pieces help me achieve that even weekly goal. So this affirmation reminder goes off at certain times in the day, and I tap it and I say it. And I think, that's kind of, people are like, what? But if you say it out loud, it becomes believe, which becomes the things that you do by the choices you make. So I do that. And then I have, this is also cool too. I don't know if you can hear it. I'll show you.
What's that app called? What's that app called, Shawn?
The first one was affirmation reminder. And then this one's called Mind Bell. And so this just goes off a couple times a day. It's just a little chime. Makes me stop and think about what I'm doing in the moment. Am I doing the things I need to be doing? Am I doing the things that keep me on track? So between those two, they probably go off about 8-9 times a day. And just it helps me. It doesn't take any time at all, but it's just mindfulness, right? Mindfulness.
No, it's all about mindfulness. Yeah. I wrote a blog this month. It's all about mindfulness. Yeah. And it's important.
Well, and from the salespeople that I coach, they're sucked into especially account executives. Most of the people I have are in an account executive role, and that they have new business development responsibilities, account management, from soup to nuts, right? You're just sucked into this whirlwind of reactiveness, and it's so hard to be intentional about what you're going to do. You can come in the morning and your day just gets blown apart. And how do you bring that back? And other people, time vampires, customers, colleagues, whatever, it's really hard. So I spend a ton of time trying to help people. I don't even want to call it staying on task, but staying in the moment through the task and being able to recover and manage that. And I think that's a big problem. Isn't that why Jill Conrad wrote More Sales, Less Time this past year?
Yep.
Yeah. Salespeople need to really own the art of sales, and really, I love I'm just gonna go back to what you were saying. The mindfulness of taking a minute is so critical. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take time to prep and take time to, breathe before a sales call, then it's going to be a tough call.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You're not going to get out of it what you want to get out of it, whether it's a call or a meeting or anything.
Right. If you focus on what you're losing or what, I have to get this, you're not even present in that moment either.
Right. Yeah. I will say this too about salespeople, being mindful. If you're mindful, then you're looking at your pipeline on a regular basis. And if you can always tell a salesperson when you walk into a sales organization who the salespeople who have a weak pipeline, because they're running around, they're nervous, they're anxious. So you can always tell a salesperson when they have a bad pipeline. And there's no reason to have a bad pipeline. There really is no reason. And I think one of the first things that a salesperson to get to 5 figures to 6 is you got to hire not only a coach. I think it's critical, but you also have to hire an executive assistant. Because if you want to grow your business, you need, whether it's a virtual assistant or an assistant, you need somebody to delegate, because you need to understand what your price per hour is. You need to understand where your top 3 leading activities are. You need to understand what your unique ability is. And you should really be spending your time in front of clients, calling clients, or at a meeting or on your way to a meeting.
Yeah.
And then that should be 80% of your day, and everything else should be shelled off to an assistant, whether again, it's, a real person or a virtual person. And if you're not willing to invest in yourself and your people, you're not going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have a very frictional day. Because you're going to be running around with like a chicken with your head cut off. I mean, I couldn't do what I do without a team of assistants that help me do what I do. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because I've said this on more than one occasion to a salesperson who just bitching about, we don't have this resource, we don't have this person. I'm like, who cares if your company won't provide it? If you believe in the product you're selling and you want to be successful, go get it yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
All those things you just mentioned, you can do stuff. You can go get learning, training, education. You can go, your company's not going to bar, you're fired. You got a sales coach, you little.
Yeah.
Well,
most salespeople will not invest in themselves. A lot of my clients are not salespeople. My clients are salespeople if the company's owner or the VP of sales pays for me to have them use me, or I do a workshop for salespeople.
Right.
But salespeople, it's really interesting. Even if they make a ton of money, they won't. Very few of them will really invest in themselves. I have a few that do, who are forward thinking, but mostly they don't. I actually created an online program for salespeople. It's on my website. It's a great program, and maybe you guys can link to it from your site. But it's because I know they really won't invest. So it's kind of it's a 4-month program to grow their pipeline. I've had people had great results from it, but even at it's a 4-month program. It's $995. It includes 3 30-minute sessions with me. Every week you're getting tons of content, videos, this and the other. And still salespeople will be like, well, it's $900,
right.
But it's not.
Wow.
So they need to really commit. I don't care if people watch this by my program,
right.
you, whomever, it doesn't matter, but they need to commit to investing in themselves, to buying a plane ticket to go see a client, go to a conference. And stop depending on your company to pay for everything. Take ownership. If you want to make serious money, make serious moves.
Woo! You want to make serious money, make serious moves.
Yeah, that was tweetable.
That was a tweetable. Those are also good. Yeah. Mine, my little thing is every single dingle week I track it. I make 100 quality cold to close connections.
Yeah.
And I will not let up on Friday until it's done. And I have somebody to account for every Monday morning. It's like at least 100. And just that small act of, I've got to get 20 quality connections in today. That's what drives my day. And then my business grows in front of me and everything else falls into place. But I am always prospecting. Yeah. So but now I have all sorts of other things that I've learned from you, John, that I need to really, I do have my business plan in front of me on my desk, but I wouldn't say that I'm looking at it every day.
I would. I'll say one thing, because I know our time is almost done, but in the book, because we're talking about mentors, in the book, the main character's name is Jacob, but in the book, he can't grow until he realizes how open he needs to be to all of the mentors along the path. So the book has kind of that, the Wizard of Oz-ish to it, where throughout the course, he's running into all of these different people that are giving him all these little nuggets of advice.
Right.
And some he takes and some he doesn't. But what he realizes in hindsight at the end is all of those pieces of advice led him to where he ultimately ends up. And without being open to the mentorship and the guidance and and leaving his ego at the door, he realized he wouldn't have gotten to where he is. And then that ultimately led to a balanced life of working hard, but also understanding the important things. You haven't gotten to the end, so I won't spoil the end.
I'm so excited. I haven't gotten to the end yet. I can't wait.
But it's it's an emotional read too, my book.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a lot of my life in it, and there's a lot of my family's life in it, and my friends' lives, and my grandparents, but you got to be open to finding a mentor and being a mentor. So I've had great business coaches in my life, and I still do, and it's the only way to grow. It's the only way to grow.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, John, we have one more question we're going to ask, but before we do, I want you to tell people where they can find you and your book real quick.
Oh, I appreciate that. My website is Jon Dwoskin, JONDWOSKIN. All my information is there. My podcast, my book can be bought right from there on a link to Amazon. My book's available on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Target, a bunch of other places, but Amazon is where most people buy it. And you can call me, 248-535-7796 if you are looking to grow your business, or go to my website, and I have tons of, almost 300 video tips and podcasts and blogs and tons of content, lots of ebooks and all that type of stuff.
Very good. So are you in Lansing, Michigan?
No, Huntington Woods, Michigan.
Okay, so pretty close though. I recognize the 248. I'm from Michigan.
Yeah, Lansing's about an hour-ish away.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
All right. What's the back of the envelope question you've got, Shawn?
All right, so here we go. Okay, so this might be a tough one, but so Jon, you meditate, you run, you're very healthy dude, but we just had Halloween. So I want to know, if we were to catch you rifling through your child's trick-or-treat bag, what are the wrappers we'd find on the floor? What's your I can't.
I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't want to kind of go here, but I'm also on a health kick right now because this last year, it was just a tough year. My father passed away, my mother-in-law passed away, and so I gained some weight, and now I'm on a health kick to lose the weight. So this Halloween was the first Halloween I did not have one piece of candy.
Wow.
I did not have one piece of candy. So I was pretty proud of myself on that, to stay on page during Halloween. But if I were to eat their candy, which in the next couple of days, even though I'm hardcore today, sometimes you think you're never going to slip when you're in a good space. But I would eat the dots. The dot candies, which are my favorite. Three Musketeers, Mars, Snickers.
In that order.
And all the Skittles. Those are my favorite. All of those. And then I would just, to me, it's go big or go home. So it's like, why have one when you can have, a ton? So,
yeah.
But that would be what I would eat. So.
Very good. Very good. Well, just in case you're wondering, the top chocolate bar in America is Snickers, followed by peanut butter cups and Kit Kat. So.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, yeah, Kit Kat's kind of that lost. You forget about how good they are. They are really good. Yeah.
Well, Jon,
so much.
Yeah, we know that you are a super busy human and that you gave your time so generously today. We're incredibly grateful to you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope it was great being on your show, and I hope that Scott and I can also be on your show relatively soon. I think that'd be fun for the four of us to do a show, and then we'll have you on our show, the 7-Minute Sales Minute, as well.
Absolutely. And, so this long, raw, and uncut version will be turned into a podcast, which we did get on iTunes yesterday, finally.
Oh, congratulations.
Yay. I know.
Right.
I feel so good about that. And then the long version of the video will be released not this Sunday, but next.
Okay.
And then we're way behind on our editing because we're kind of getting that machine running.
Okay.
But when it does come out, the edited version, we'll let you know. And if you need anything in between now and then, you just got to let us know. It was really fabulous.
I will. No, it was great being on your show, and I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon for sure.
Okay, well, that was awesome. Jon gave us, here's the thing. I want you, if you're watching this show, don't get overwhelmed. Take one thing that resonated with you about what Jon said or what one of us said, and go to work on that. Don't try to bite off that whole apple. That was big.
It was. And just like anything else, just like books, video is meant to reference. Go back and listen to it again. Just like you go back and you read a book or you read a guide or something like that, you go back and reference different parts, because when you achieve one, then you go to the next step. So yeah, don't bite off the whole apple. But Jon has been very successful. He makes businesses successful, and these are not wildly different principles. We talk about these a lot, but man, this was good. This was really good.
Yeah. So, and subscribe to our channel right now. Hit the subscribe.
Don't miss anything. I think that, because these are long, I'm going to guess that not everybody watches from A to Z the whole time. And sometimes if you've forgotten to subscribe so you know what new stuff comes out. Dianna and I are always looking for interesting, challenging guests that are not boring, not blah. So hit the button below, subscribe. Okay. All right. Let's kick us out.
Okay. And stop hoping.
And start selling.
That's right. Bye, everybody.